all year are things I wish I could have said. We were swindled. No, you weren't, Matt. I'd like to say fair play to the Wolves, but there was nothing fair about that. I'm becoming that which I hate, a hashtag refs falter. Somebody called 999, there's been a robbery. Oh, Wally, there hasn't. Paul O'Brien, 1976, he said, watching the game as a neutral, brackets, yeah right, I hate Warrington. I thought it was a very poor performance by the officials, some big decisions missed. Shows it's time to stop the referee saying try or no try on the field and leave it to the video referee. It's obviously got his head screwed on that ex-ref, hasn't he? Agreeing with me. Aidan Stalker. It's been a poor display from St Helens for most of the season, so we shouldn't be making the grand final. But it was a tragic performance from the refs that will obviously get the attention. Hope this doesn't blind us to the problems in the side. Lomax was superb. Him returning is a highlight of the season. Tyler Casfan said, very good from both teams who served up an intense game. Both packs were good as well as defences. The fine margin for me was that Gidley and Patton were the better halves, although I think Jordan Turner can feel unlucky to be on the losing side. Angela Coates, I'm going to go ahead and assume is a Saints fan, says it was shambolic.
No, so she's a Wigan fan, I believe.
Oh right, fair enough.
I think.
Well, I'll take it all back. Oh God, I do take it all back then, Angela. The referee and video referee decisions are ruining our game. The first try was short of the line, then held up over the line but was given. The last try was grounded on the line but was ruled no try on the field and not overturned by the video ref. There was a blatant knock-on which was overlooked, completely unacceptable in a semi-final game or any game for that matter. Tom Eckley 99, that last 20 minutes was the longest 20 minutes of my life. Tom's a wolf. Thought Patton and Gidley in particular had great games. Now time to blag the day off next Saturday. Cutthroat Jake said, well, that sounded like a well-deserved win for Warrington. Throughout the year, they've been the best team in the league and deserve to reach the final. Chris Macy was very entertained by this encounter, not without its controversies, mind you. Thought it was ironic that one decision would have benefited from a video ref call while the other did seem to get it wrong. It will unfortunately overshadow this contest, which is a shame. Wire's intensity in defence was brilliant. They chased well and tackled better. Saints' movement and metres gained looked impressive. They just seemed to lack execution where it mattered. From Wire Joe. He said there was a section in the middle of the second half where Saints were pinning us down our end with their kicks and hunting the error on our exit sets. A Wire side earlier this year would have committed an error after error and allowed Saints to take control of the game. I'm hoping this is an attitudinal and mental change, good word sir, that we're taking into the grand final, because we'll need a big chunk of that mental fortitude if we're finally going to get over that line. Lee Whitnell said, what a feeling, we got lucky with the decisions, but we were the better team for most of the game. The Saints pack looked fucked, and it was only when Walmsley came on that they looked dangerous. Plus the pass to Swift before their try looked forward to me, so let's call it even. Grand final, here we come. And Richard Wilkinson, who goes on to qualify that he's someone who generally hates the Saints, he says, if I was Cunningham, I would ask why Thaler at a scrum went back and checked from the play the ball for a Saints knock-on when the set ended with the ball kicked into touch. WTF. When did play-by-play review become a thing? This should happen every time or not at all. If play breaks down and it's not clear who knocked on, then of course it should be checked. But what we had on Thursday was one team being unfairly scrutinised, not the other. There you go. Not a lot of people agree with us going through those, but maybe they're more invested in what they were seeing than we were.
I completely agree why a Saints fan will feel the way they felt. I'd feel that way if I was a fan of that team. I can also understand why there's a criticism of all of those decisions, because we believe the Perry one was a try. We believe that the line and one should have been checked, and it's not. We're a bit both ways, but both of us think if it wasn't given a try, if it was given a no try or a try, neither of us are too broken-hearted about it, I suppose. But yeah, they make some valid points that there was things that went on in that game that were a little bit out of the ordinary, and that's, I suppose that's what we don't want to see. And Stuart Cummings doesn't help, because when he explains things, he's gone from explaining things to just giving his opinion now, and I think that's the problem, because then it legitimises the criticism. If he just gives his opinion and maybe even explains, even if he just sees his role as explaining what the referee has done and not giving his opinion.
Yeah, this is the problem I have with Stuart Cummings, is it undermines the other referees and it undermines the process. And if he was just giving explanations, that would be fine. I was struggling to think of other sports coverage. I don't watch a lot beyond rugby league, to be perfectly honest. I was trying to think of other sports where the coverage includes an ex-official.
The NFL.
Does the NFL do that?
The NFL does, and it was always typically explain the ruling, and what you got is someone explaining the ruling.
Yeah.
And then there was one guy who came in and started to give his opinions and started to make himself look like an idiot, because the things were happening that were being given that were different, and the explanations that were coming out from the NFL office after the game about the decisions were different.
Right.
And so it made him look inept and stupid. And he kind of has maybe been tempered in his role a little bit. But yeah, no, it happens in the NFL.
So the problem is, I don't think it makes Stuart Cummings look stupid and inept. I think because he's so highly thought of and is regarded as an official, actually his word carries a lot more weight, and what it does is it makes...
I think the fact that he's no longer a referee, and people just like to criticise referees and forget now that because he isn't one anymore, he's on their side now, he's slagging them off. He knows they're all shit too, like we all know, because that's what we know. And I don't necessarily think they are all terrible. I think some of the systems they operate in aren't good enough, and I think some of the directives given out aren't followed strongly enough. But yeah,
okay, right then, so to Friday night Wigan, Mark, sorry, you're not Wigan, you're Mark, you're not going to want to talk about this for very long, I wouldn't have thought, so we'll just skirt over it. But it was Wigan 28, Hull FC 18, booking your boys a place at the grand final, but it didn't have it all your own way, did you? Despite being 14-0 up at the break, you found yourselves 18 points to 16 behind with about 19 minutes left on the clock before a quick try 1-2 from Sam Powell and Anthony Gelling got you over the line. How was your Friday night?
Exceptional. To be honest, the first 40 minutes, Wigan did everything you'd expect from a side in a semi-final. They were physical with the ball. They were resolute without the ball. They put on a few set moves with a little few nuances that actually were good attacking plays that you haven't seen enough of from Wigan this year. The two Lewis Tierney tries were both set-up plays to the left that went through different versions of the same sort of type of thing to make, and that's different questions of the same sort of defenders as you did it, and use different players in different roles, all for the purpose of basically getting that overlap. Both of them were worked very well. Lewis Tierney having to finish his first one a bit tougher than he had to finish the second one, and he did very well at that too. But outside of that, obviously in a semi-final you don't have it all your own way with those sorts of things, and there were aspects of Wigan's attack that are still frustrating, but those moves showed that they're sort of getting back to using runners and using second mans like behind the back, just using different players in different positions, but all actually confusing defences with set plays, which has not been seen enough this year.
And credit to Lewis Tierney as well, because the way that Hull were lining up, and they do like to line up and slide and put the winger under pressure when he's got the ball, and it's been a criticism that you've levelled at Lewis Tierney, because you see him a lot more than I do, that he needs to develop his strength when he's in those positions to finish well and get over the line. And actually, particularly with his first try, he stood up really well to that examination, and I think that's a good indicator for you, perhaps not for the grand final obviously, but for the next 6 months, and Lewis Tierney developing in the off-season and coming back a stronger player for you in 2017. That's a good indicator that that's something he's worked on and learning to make part of his game.
Definitely, yeah. And Wigan were setting Hull FC up in terms of when they didn't have the opportunities, they were forcing repeat sets with good kicks, good effort to keep Shaw back in goal on the second of the dropouts that was forced, and then using what they'd sort of learned from that and the that they'd tired out Hull a little bit to put on a little bit of a nuance and get the ball out the back and get it out wide. But after that first 15 minutes where that came off, Wigan's attack started to sort of falter again as Hull FC's defence started to improve, but Hull FC couldn't do anything with the ball, despite Wigan giving them a few opportunities with a few errors on exit sets. They really weren't at the races. Mark Snade was getting mercilessly abused in terms, not in any sort of nasty way, just every time he did something the Wigan fans would do the Sneed chant.
Well, of course,
because everything he did was awful, frankly, in that first half. But Wigan, because their attack isn't very good this year, because they couldn't consistently come up with these question asking plays that they were able to in the first 15 minutes, and because we're not as good at striking from deep and we're up against a very strong side, what happened is Hull sort of kept themselves in the game, and it was a stroke of luck really that Wigan got probably what their overall performance deserved out of that first half, which was a 3-score lead, but their own ineptitude measured with a determination from a Hull side who were playing awfully bad rugby league. They were terrible, but they cared, so they put in the effort that you're supposed to put in, and that helped combat whatever was going on. But John Bateman epitomised everything that everyone was doing well in picking up that loose ball from a shocking attempt at a drop goal from the drop goal master himself.
Well, he loves a drop goal, doesn't he? Maybe it's in the bank for next week now.
The fact that Danny Houghton charged it down rather than missing it and it hitting Ryan Sutton, which would have been a penalty to Hull, and that would have closed out the first half, and all of that, and then Bateman's finish, diving from 6 yards out or whatever he did through 4 people.
I know, who skids that far
with the
time of
strength
year?
to keep the ball and all of that. It was a great finish by a great player who would have been at the award ceremony tonight in looking at top honours if he could keep himself.
If he could always ail, he'd be
keep his head
Man of Steel, wouldn't he?
Yeah, when he's a bit drunk.
He'll be Man of Steel next year.
Let's hope. I hope so, because I think he needs. Yeah, if he can. Yeah.
John Bateman's the best English rugby league player in our competition, for me. I know there's great rugby league players. I know you can say Chris Hill. I know you can talk about other people, but for what John Bateman brings in terms of dynamism in the second row, he's actually got a very deft pass on him as well. He can kick, and there's these little minor points to his game that separate him for me from other second rowers and other players, that he's so well-rounded an all-round player that you can almost deploy him virtually in every position on the park, apart from perhaps prop forward or
you could play honest.
There. But he runs so hard and he runs his weight. And one of the criticisms that was levelled against the coaching staff at Bradford when he was with him actually was that we didn't deploy him in any way the way that you guys do, and we just flogged him up the middle and had him running. So he never complained, and he can pass both ways. He's got great game management. He can read what's going on. He runs a beautiful line. He runs against the grain are fabulous for me. I know there will be people that argue with me, but for me, John Bateman, best English player in our comp.
Yeah, it's the mental side off the field that is because he's got that sort of mongrel inside him that we talk about on the field. He's got that under control nowadays, I feel.
What is he, 22, 23?
23, he was 23 on Friday.
We've got 10 years left of watching John Bateman, all things being equal. And that's fantastic.
He was 23 on Friday. Happy birthday to him for what happened. Yeah. So Wigan went in at half time with the sort of lead they should have had, given how badly Hull had played and how much Wigan had dominated. And Wigan's defence at that stage had given them not a sniff of anything. So even when the attack slowed down, the defence kept its high level. But talking about great line running and that sort of thing, Hull FC came out of a game plan. They obviously had targeted players to run at and had set plays that they had up the sleeve that they brought back out and said, Wigan won't be expecting this bloke to do this thing against that guy, and that sort of thing. And it was the Washbrook line that Jake Shorrocks had completely overread the play, because Tuma Barbie basically had been awful, uncreative, uninspiring and easy to control by what Wigan was sort of putting an umbrella defence around him, making him make decisions that he's not comfortable making, and then he was just running at them and falling over. He obviously was given a script for the start of the second half and said, these are things you can do actually, mate. And he did them. and Josh, the way Josh Bowden came on to what was really good play by Danny Washbrook to hold the ball up and get the offload out. I mean, that was brilliant. And then the Liam Watts try, I mean, the pass was borderline, but let's assume it was the right side of the line. And then you'd say, what a great line he ran. And it was a line that Chris Hill had exploited against Wigan a couple of weeks before.